All right. The name is Dale. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do a retro review of Black Sheep's first album called A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. This retro review is done on behalf of Audio Liquor. Now, what made me want to do something like this was recently Dres, the frontman for Black Sheep, who was the MC of the duo. He was on Drink Champs getting interviewed by Nori. And that made me want to go back and listen to their first album, which dropped in 1991. And they were part of the collective clique of artists and group called Native Tongue, which consists of De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah, Moni Love, and Black Sheep. And his partner, Mr. Long, he's the producer slash DJ. He did all the production. And I don't consider their first album, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, a classic. If someone does, I wouldn't debate them on that. I didn't even think it was a classic back then. But it's a good album and it's worth speaking of because I don't think people tend to talk about it when they talking about those albums that kind of changed the game or were different or were standout in the 90s in that golden age. They tend to get forgotten about. And maybe because their catalog doesn't stand up to groups like De La Soul or Tribe Called Quest, but this is an album that should get mentioned. And I remember buying the cassette back in the day when I was in high school. And the first single, Flavor of the Month, I remember them having a video. It was out in the field with the sheeps. It was a very good song. I love the hook, very catchy. Had the jazz feel to it, but a little mid-tempo to it. Not as laid back, but sort of laid back, but it still had that umph to it. And I remember getting the whole album. I even liked the cover, the artwork for the album, where they was all dressed in black and they in this field surrounded by a bunch of white sheep. And I'm gonna talk about some of the highlights on the album. I'm gonna say this, when this album dropped back then and I heard it, I used to play it, it had a lot of repeat value. I thought they were going to be on this like arc where they're going to be just as consistent bringing out high quality albums like De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest, but that wasn't to be. When their second album came out in 1994 called Nonfiction, it was very disappointing. The first song to start the Nonfiction album was A Monster. I love that song. When I heard that shit, I was like, oh, this album is gonna be even better than the first one. But it wasn't. It was a disappointment, went downhill after that first song. But man, that first song was strong as hell. It was like him telling his life, Dres telling his life about him in North Carolina, him getting locked up for hustling, him getting a job as an accountant or in a bank after he gets out of prison, and how they come together as a group. It was almost like a bio, so to speak. So I thought I was in for something, but it was a disappointment to me. And then I think they broke up after that second album and didn't get back together. Him and Mr. Long didn't get back together until like in the mid-2000s at that. They brought out a few albums in the 2000s that wasn't hitting on nothing, in my opinion. Dres had a few solo albums in the 2000s that I didn't care for. But anyway, with A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, the first song is a funny ass song. It's like him rapping like on some gangster shit, talking about doing all this crazy killing and all this crazy crime, and then he wakes up like, I had a dream that I was hard. That shit was funny. It was crazy way to start off the album. It had joints like Strobe Like Honey, which was a funny song. You know, at the club it's dark, you think the chick that you're seeing in the club is attractive, then you get her in the light, she's not what you thought she was. They had another song called Similac Child, which is funny. I thought the version of Similac Child on the album was just okay, but they brought it out as a single, like maybe they third or fourth single, and they had a video for it, and they did the video with the remix of Similac Child. And I thought the remix version of Similac Child was much better than the album version. It had the horns in it. It was crazy strong. It was a good ass remix. It put the album version to shame. I thought the album version was okay. Then they had another song which was funny as hell. I can't remember the name of the joint. It was featuring Q-Tip. Then they had another song called Hoes I Knows, where they give it all these different types of names to hoes from different areas and different nationalities. They giving them all these funny names. It was a funny ass disrespectful song. And they had another, they had a skit where it's like a daytime talk show, and this lady is interviewing them, and she asked them, how are your lives different from North Carolina and New York? Because him and Mr. Long met in North Carolina, even though both of them are originally from New York, but they didn't meet till they went to North Carolina, where they lived for a period of time. And he said the difference is in North Carolina they have the tractors, rakes, and hoes. Up here we just got the hoes. For to New York. And she's like real calm after all these disrespectful answers. And then he says one thing that pushes her over the edge is she just getting her black female mode and said, motherfucker, who do you think you are, disrespected? It's one of the funniest skits, and it makes me laugh to this day. That's when you know you got a funny ass skit, when it can make you laugh every time you hear it. Some skits are funny when you first hear them the first few times, and then after years go on, they're not as funny, or they don't age well or something like that. But not this skit. This skit is funny. Then they had The Choice Is Yours, which was the Monster single. I think it was their second single. The Monster song is a classic song. They actually have two versions on the album. The version of the song that's like in like the middle of the album in the track list was just okay, but the revisit version of The Choice Is Yours, which is like the second to the last song on the album, that's the one we all know and love, for those who do know the song. And that's the one that got them notoriety. I think that boosted the sales of their album. I think they went gold. I think the first album went gold, basically off the strength of that single. That song is so classic that I even heard it in a car commercial a few years ago. Then they got another song called Yes, which is like the last song on the album, and Dres goes in, and he just kills it with the rhymes. So, and they got another song too called The Middle Finger, which is funny as hell. One of my favorite songs on the album. The hook is funny, like, I know you wanna, you know you wanna, give me the finger. He's talking about the middle finger. He's like, please. The shit is funny, and he's got lines talking about my favorite hoe is yours, of course, and shit like every day is Saturday. We go to bed and wake up, it's Saturday again. Like, it's like basically shitting on the little man, talking about they living the life, they getting paid to do what they want to do while you gotta struggle. It's an obnoxious song, but in a funny, clever way. One of my favorite songs on the album. So if you haven't, this is one of them albums that vinyl's making a resurgence. It has made a resurgence. People are buying vinyl now. And this is one of them albums that I would get on vinyl today. So it's, for those who don't know the joint or forgot about it, I strongly advise you get it, revisit it, listen to it. I'm sure it's online somewhere. And gotta do a shameless plug. Me and my folks Charles have an album out together. Charles and the Ugly Professor. The Ugly Professor is me. You can tell by my pretty face, that's why I go by that name. We got an album called Force Multipliers. It's crazy, cool, ugly face music. Charles on the mic, I'm on the beats. Co-produced by Ali the Terror. I'm sure you will love it. If you love real hip hop, you're gonna love it. So it's on all music streaming platforms. Listen to it, get it if you like it. I'm done, I'm finished, and there you have it.